All right, welcome to WTFSKY. Here at this 5:30 hour, we've got some political talk coming up. Also, President Trump and the coronavirus task force will be going live here shortly. We will bring you parts of that. But we do have a couple things to talk about today in this first ever WTFSKY political show. We'll be carrying these on Mondays, usually between 5 and 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This is just going to be a show based around politics, the government, not really picking a particular side. We'll try to cover both sides as fair as possible, but will not let anyone get off the hook when it comes to truth or what's right or wrong. Again, our views are in the middle. We are moderate, and we're not taking sides. We're just presenting the political news as it is handed to us. All right, let's get right into it here on WTFSKY. First and foremost, New York cancels presidential primary citing coronavirus after Sanders camp asked to stay on the ballot. Now, this is a big deal in many ways. There are 274 delegates that are up for grabs for this particular state. Now, them canceling the primary is a big deal. Now, you say to yourself, Bernie Sanders, didn't he drop off of the ticket? Yes. Well, he suspended his campaign, but that was going to be under the assumption of staying on the ballots. A lot of people thought, well, this is weird because Bernie Sanders has endorsed Joe Biden. Now, how does Joe Biden's supporters feel about that? They're happy to have the support of Sanders. But how do Sanders supporters feel about this? And I'm talking about when Bernie Sanders endorsed Joe Biden. And I can tell you there are a lot of angry Sanders campaign people, for sure. Very angry, not willing to accept the policy of Joe Biden and his administration. So now we are adding not just gasoline to the fire, but nuclear material to the fire, because this takes Bernie Sanders off of the primary ballots as well. And let me read a little bit of this article here. It says, New York has canceled the Democratic presidential primary for the first time ever due to coronavirus pandemic, igniting a backlash from supporters of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, whose campaign had asked that his name be allowed to stay on the ballot. The move by Democrats on the New York State Board of Elections nixing the election scheduled for June 23rd followed Sanders' announcement earlier this month that he would suspend his presidential campaign, rendering former Vice President Joe Biden the presumptive Democratic nominee. With this decision, New York became the first state to cancel its primary altogether. Those 16 states have postponed their primaries amid the pandemic, and many have taken steps to encourage voting by mail, which I know a lot of people are not for that, and there is a lot of fraud that has happened in the past, but I feel like the cancellation of this primary is sort of priming things up for the potential of voting by mail. Right now, we are in unknown charted territory. We don't know if we're going to be able to hit the election polls by November to vote on a president. It may have to be done by mail. And then I know Donald Trump is not very happy about that option. He is the one person who is definitely concerned about voter fraud, and so should he be. Even the government, the federal government, makes mistakes. For instance, during the stimulus payments that people got their checks, their $1,200 checks, I think it was somewhere like 1.6 million dead people received paychecks. Now, obviously, it was corrected. The money was returned. It wasn't as if, these checks were cashed. But again, mistakes will be made. But what Trump is worried about are mistakes that aren't made so innocently. And so if dead people, 1.6 million of them, can get paid, well, just think of how easy it would be for 1.6 million or more deceased people to vote for a particular candidate. So, look, the election right now is already high tension. Uncertainties of where we will be at with this virus, especially by November. If we're talking about a second wave of COVID-19, this is going to be right smack dab in the middle of the election. So we're already tense about the upcoming weeks of this open. And I'll say this. A lot of folks are sitting here. I know there will be folks on the side that say, well, this was a political move. The Democrats did this on purpose to snuff Bernie Sanders out of the primary. But I think of all states that know about the dangers of this virus, it is the state of New York. As you all know, the coronavirus has hit the state of New York extra hard. We lead the United States in cases and deaths. New York is actually second in the world when it comes to cases. The USA as a country is in first. You take away New York's cases and they still finish second in the world. Right now, the death tolls are dropping, and that's good news for New York. But we are starting to see other states around the U.S. starting to trend upwards a bit. Michigan looks to be flattening out. Louisiana looks to get it under control. Parts like Massachusetts still on the up. Illinois definitely on the up as well in new cases, deaths. But as we progress into these coming weeks, as I was saying, New York knows the dangers of this virus. All right, we're sitting at 22,000 people have passed away from this virus. Wisconsin held a primary vote 2 weeks ago today. And today, the cases in Wisconsin, as of recently, have doubled per day than what they were when we had the primary voting. In other words, they were adding in the tune of 150 cases per day when they did the protest. Now, Wisconsin is adding 320, 370 per day, and the numbers continue to go up. Let's see where we are today. Wisconsin, where are you at? Right now, 170 is reported. There's another update later in the day. So the numbers staying manageable, but there was a couple of days of uptick in cases in Wisconsin this past weekend from Thursday through Sunday. We'll check back on those numbers, but the reason why I'm saying that the primary being canceled, you could say it's a political move, but then you could also say that New York has learned their lesson and they have seen what this virus can do. And people voting in Wisconsin, you're talking about more rural areas, rural cities and towns. It's more spread out. It's not as dense as it is here in New York. So imagine if New Yorkers, as good as we've been with social distancing, imagine if June 23rd, where some believe that parts of the state will still be in phase 1, maybe phase 2 of the opening, outvoting, possibly bringing in out-of-county travelers at some point as well. It's just too many unknowns. So I kind of say this is a good call for the instances of safety. If you're Bernie Sanders or a Sanders voter, this is terrible news for you. I empathize for your campaign and your supporters. This is terrible news for you. You get snuffed out once again, and Trump will say that the system is rigged. And let's hope he doesn't. I don't want any more provoking at a time that we're dealing with right now. Politics is already hard to deal with. This show, the idea of it first, we told people about it, and somebody made a comment. Oh yeah, that's real uniting. Let's do a politics show. But anyway, it looks like we have some movement here. Go ahead and turn the volume up. So, and soon as they turn the sound on, hopefully we get sound for this. So the president and his coronavirus task force is making their way to their seats. There's the admiral. There's Deborah Birx. I don't know if we saw Tony Fauci. A lot of speculation out there about Tony Fauci. A lot of thoughts that that him and the president don't get along, and Mr. Trump has several times batted that down and said, "Stop it with that. We're not butting heads." So, for the most part, I think people gave him the benefit of the doubt, and but here lately, we haven't seen Dr. Fauci at the White House in quite some time, actually. This should be interesting. This is the first time that we've seen the president since Friday, which he gave a 22-minute press conference on some facts real quick about testing, and that was it. They were done. They walked off the stage, no questions taken, nothing. And the reason for that is Thursday, Trump had kind of basically was free thought thinking out loud with the doctors and scientists about injections of disinfectants. And it came out funny. All right. It came out funny, but nonetheless, he was looking at the doctors, not the media, not any reporter. No reporter had prompted this. Trump had just offered this free thinking on his own. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like I said, he is our leader. He's trying to think of ways to help beat this virus. Let's get back to normal. He's tired of this. I get it. He wants to think of solutions. But on Friday afternoon, after signing the bill for the relief package for the PPP loan services, he was asked about that particular moment, and an irritated President Trump had replied, "That question was for you. It was a sarcastic question for reporters like you."
The President of the United States, accompanied by the Vice President of the United States.
All right, here we go. Trump will be live. And I'll break in. We won't do the whole thing here, but we're going to listen to a little bit here of the intro.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Today I'd like to provide you with an update in our war against the coronavirus. Thanks to our comprehensive strategy and extraordinary devotion to our citizens, we've had such tremendous support all over. We continue to see encouraging signs of progress. Cases in New York area, New Orleans, Detroit, Boston, and Houston are declining. Denver, Seattle, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Nashville, Indianapolis, and St. Louis are all stable and declining. All parts of the country are either in good shape, getting better, in all cases getting better, and we're seeing very little that we're going to look at as a superseding hotspot. Things are moving along. Really a horrible situation that we've been confronted with, but they're moving along. As we express our gratitude for these hard-fought gains, however, we continue to mourn with thousands of families across the country whose loved ones have been stolen from us by the invisible enemy. We grieve by their side as one family, this great American family, and we do grieve. We also stand in solidarity with the thousands of Americans who are ill and waging a brave fight against the virus. We're doing everything in our power to heal the sick and to gradually reopen our nation and to safely get our people back to work. They want to get back to work, and they want to get back to work soon. There's a hunger for getting our country back, and it's happening faster than people would think. Ensuring the health of our economy is vital to ensuring the health of our nation. These goals work in tandem. They work side by side. It's clear that our aggressive strategy to slow the spread has been working and is saving countless lives. For those who are infected, we've taken unprecedented action to ensure they have the highest level of care anywhere in the world. The federal government has built more than 11,000 extra beds, shipped or delivered hundreds of millions of pieces of personal protective equipment, as you know. In fact, some of the people here are going to be talking about it. Some of our greatest executives, some of the greatest anywhere in the world, and distributed over 10,000 ventilators. And we now have, in a very short period of time, many have been delivered and hundreds of thousands are being built. And frankly, every governor has more ventilators right now than they know what to do with. They're actually shipping them to different locations, and we're shipping some to our allies and others throughout the world because we have ventilators. Like the job that they've done in getting this very complex piece of equipment built is actually incredible. You don't hear about ventilators anymore except in a positive way. We've launched the most ambitious testing effort, likewise, on Earth. The United States has now conducted more than 5.4 million tests, nearly double the number tested in any other country, more than twice as much as any other country. Think of that. Moments ago, I came from a meeting with some of our nation's largest retailers, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, and Kroger. We're joined by the leaders of those great companies, and we also have with us the leaders from the world's top medical diagnostics companies and suppliers, Thermo Fisher, LabCorp, Quest, U.S. Cotton, and the American Clinical Laboratory Association. These are great companies. These private sector leaders, along with others such as Roche, Abbott, Becton Dickinson, Hologic, and Cephahide,
Pulling a Jake.
Exceptional partners in an unprecedented drive to expand the state's capabilities and our country's capabilities. The job they've done has been incredible. The testing that's been developed and being developed right now has been truly an amazing thing. I want to thank Abbott Laboratories for the job they've done. I want to thank Roche, and in particular, those two have really stepped forward. Abbott with a 5-minute test that people can take, and in 5 minutes they know what the answer is. I'd like to ask, if I could, the executives of these great companies, and they have really helped us a lot over the last 45-day period. We're talking about a 45-day period when many of us met, and since then, what Walmart and the others have done has been nothing short of amazing. So I just want to ask them to come forward and say a few words about their company. Plus, they're going to make a big contribution to our country. Please come forward, please. Thank you.
All right, so President Trump doing his briefing today. Listen, he's playing it smart, guys. He is putting the experts, he's putting the frontline people up here in front of the United States of America. He is letting them report on their what they're doing and how they're doing it. And honestly, this is probably what Trump should have been doing from day one, every day when he does these press conferences. So I'll definitely get back into this when they start doing the questions, because I'm going to be curious to see how the media treats President Trump tonight. There was a lot of pent-up anger on the left-hand side from what he said on Friday to people in the Oval Office, or where he was signing his documents. So there's a lot of angry left media out there. So that's going to be some unnecessary comments, more than likely, happening today during the question and answer. I do want to catch some of that live while we're here. I'm going to go ahead and keep the video screen up. Turn this down. I know you can't probably read that, but I did offer some subtitles. Maybe you can catch a couple of words of what each individual. Like I said, once we start getting into the questions and answers, I'll go ahead and cut back in. But as we were talking about Sanders and Biden for the New York primary, again, I think just looking at this article, you could say it was a political move done by the Democrats, or it was a safety move done by humans who don't want to infect its population, especially since right now the Democratic Party, is it worth infecting hundreds or thousands of people when we already know that Joe is going to be the presumptive nominee? Sanders has suspended his campaign. So if you're the state of New York, you're looking at it, well, why should we even run this primary? It's ridiculous. Joe obviously is going to wrap this up. Bernie staying on the ballot, he might have collected some delegates, but not enough to really cause a ruckus, in my opinion. Again, that's just my opinion. All right, let's check out here in the New York Times. Skips latest development in the Tara Reade sexual assault claims against Joe Biden. This is a problem. A lot of you folks know about Creepy Joe. Creepy Joe has got several videos out there on the internet that show him, let's just say, being a little too hands-on, if you know what I mean. The New York Times was widely criticized for taking so long to report the sexual assault accusation that Tara Reade levied against presumed 2020 Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. And now it looks the paper has ignored the latest development in her story. And a clip from CNN Larry King's Live that resurfaced on Friday appears to show Reade's late mother alluding to problems her daughter faced while working as a staffer for then Delaware Senator. Reade later told Fox News it was indeed the voice of her mother on the clip. The 27-year-old footage dominated social media for much of the weekend, forcing even liberal CNN to briefly mention the story it had previously ignored. The New York Times appears to have not covered the story whatsoever, though. Various searches for keywords such as Larry King, Tara Reade on the paper website did not return any relevant results as of Monday morning. Now, I have heard through the grapevine and the YouTubers that this Larry King clip of this interview has been wiped off the internet. Nobody can find this clip anymore. Again, you can say power of the deep state. Indeed, something fishy's going on here. So, and I also noticed this as well. The other day, I was looking for the Joe Biden videos that show him doing things he shouldn't be doing, just to kind of share out there, because that's my biggest concern about Joe Biden becoming president, is his previous behavior on camera with women, not just children, but women as well, and other people. I don't know if I buy the whole Joe's just an old soul and he's affectionate and blah, 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 but it's definitely something that raises your eyebrows if you ever see the Joe Biden videos of him and women. It's really creepy. So now, with this allegation of sexual assault by Joe Biden, now, I didn't read all the way through this. I don't know what she is accusing him of. It doesn't say the accusations. They just kind of talk about Kavanaugh. Reade initially stepped forward when multiple women emerged claiming the inappropriate touching by Biden. Reade at the time claimed Biden put his hands on her shoulders and rubbed his fingers up and down her neck, but the story received little attention outside of an article in a local newspaper. But late March, Reade told a more graphic account with this different and more serious details, raising allegation of level 2 sexual assault. The Times also came under fire earlier this month when it deleted a tweet and tweaked its report about the alleged incident. No other allegation about sexual assault surfaced in the course of reporting, nor did any former Biden staff member corroborate any details with Ms. Reade's allegation. The Times found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Mr. Biden beyond the hugs, kisses, and touching that women previously said made them uncomfortable. So, is this a jab from Fox News to just kind of, look, we're talking about you touching inappropriately? Yeah. The headline seems way more damning and frightening than what the look. I'm just glad that Joe's not being accused of sexually, like feloniously, like a rape case or anything like that. I'm glad that we're talking about inappropriate kissing and touching. We've seen that, and that's bad. But nothing could be worse than a true, actual, more serious sexual encounter or sexual charge, I should say, than what he is facing right now. Unless the story that's being deleted about what the real allegation is that bad. And I haven't seen the actual updated allegation, so I guess I should look into that first. But I just wanted to share it as it's important. Look, I'm not trying to endorse a Democratic or Republican here. I just want to show you the truth and the facts about these candidates. I'm showing you a bit of concern things about Mr. Biden that may not be right for the image of this country. You may also say that there are things that could be said about President Trump that also could be in the worst interest for our people. And I agree with that as well. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see Mr. Trump answer questions tonight as various leaders are talking about what they're doing for the United States, how they're working with the federal government in the fight against Corona. So, I was going to show another article about Trump and how he's been back and forth on canceling these briefings and then not canceling, rescheduling, canceling. I decided to scrap that article. To me, it was just stirring the pot at trying to provoke the president. Look, he doesn't need to be provoked. He does enough on his own. Sometimes his best thing to do is just to keep quiet. And today, like what he's doing right now, this is important information. And I'm sorry I'm not carrying. I'm sure you guys can find the replay of this later. That this is the kind of stuff that the American people would rather see. Is the people on the front line, the heads of these corporations that are participating in supplying our country with what we need, and then letting the doctors get up and let them speak and let them answer questions too. So today might be a new direction for this White House, because let's face it, guys, last week, especially Thursday and Friday, really is damaging his campaign. He doesn't have rallies anymore. He has these press conferences. And unfortunately, there's a lot of nitpicking out there when it comes to the press. And the minute you make a mistake, boy, they find it and they get you tripped up and they won't let it go, because it's the obvious win for the press, right? I get it. The media doesn't get very many victories. When they're right, they're usually proven wrong. But this was a home run, slam dunk. See, we told you the president lied. And, you know, a lot of people didn't agree with Trump not doing press conferences or not answering questions. A lot of folks were upset that, you know, the voters of Trump could see past the pettiness of some of the fake news media out there, some of the people out there who don't report the truth 100% of the time. There's a lot of agenda-driven networks out there. I recognize that. CNN is driven to the Democrats. Fox News tries to be fair and balanced. They're more leaning to the right, although there have been stories I've seen on Fox News that don't always favor President Trump, and then Trump will see it, tweet about it, and criticize Fox News even about their their criticism of his presidency. I don't personally get it. He's the leader of the free world. With that job, you're going to get criticism. I'm surprised he allows it to affect him the way he does, and sometimes it doesn't make him look like a leader. He's done great things for this country. He's one of the best economies in the world. The stock market highs, unemployment lows, growth. You know, everything that you want in a country as far as thriving, Trump got it done. He's even getting it done by building the wall on the southern border. But the only thing, if I have to be critical at all, if I have to, it is the handling of the media during the coronavirus. I don't care about how he treats the media during a non-pandemic situation. We know that there's a lot of obnoxiousness that is, believe it or not, it's worse than this when we're not in a pandemic. The press is brutal. So I'm not like too offended to see him having a clash with a press member during a press conference during a non-pandemic time. But right now is not the time to be going back and forth. The press also needs to think about how they're wording their questions. Yes, some of them are being unfair. Some of them are being nasty. And then there are some of them who are being accused of being unfair and nasty when they're not. What the truth is that some of these questions are very uncomfortable for Donald Trump. I get it. It's not fun. It's not comfortable when you're out of your comfort zone. All right, let's see if he's taking questions yet. He's back at the podium. It looks like he is taking questions. Let's get the audio back.
And I would say that they are as thrilled as they can be, considering that the fact is that there has been so much unnecessary death in this country. It could have been stopped, and it could have been stopped short, but somebody a long time ago, it seems, decided not to do it that way, and the whole world is suffering because of it. 184 countries at least. But I want to thank all of these great business men and women for the job they've done. They've been fantastic with us, working with us. And as you know, for several weeks, my administration has encouraged the governors to leverage unused testing capacity in states. Very few understood that we have tremendous capacity. Then 1 week ago, we provided each governor with a list of names, addresses, and phone numbers of the labs where they could find additional testing capacity in their states. Within 48 hours, the number of tests performed across the country began to absolutely skyrocket. On Saturday alone, more than 200,000 test results were reported, which is a gigantic number, bigger than any country anywhere in the world for a much longer period of time. A number that is an increase earlier in the month when we tested roughly less than 100,000 a day. So we much more than doubled it, and that will be doubling again very shortly. We are continuing to rapidly expand our capacity and confident that we have enough testing to begin reopening and the reopening process. We want to get our country open, and the testing is not going to be a problem at all. In fact, it's going to be one of the great assets that we have. Today, we're releasing additional guidance on testing to inform the states as they develop their plans for a phased and very safe reopening. Our blueprint describes how states should unlock their full capacity, expand the number of testing platforms, establish monitoring systems to detect local outbreaks, and conduct contact tracing. We have it all. Other countries are calling to find out what are we doing and how do you do it, and we're helping them. We're dealing with a lot of countries, helping them on testing, just like we did on the ventilators. I directed our Medicare program to make it easier for seniors to get the testing that they need, and the pharmacies, as you know, we are allowing pharmacies now to do testing, and we have other testing locations that we're going to be allowing also, but having pharmacies get involved in testing is a very big deal. We're also asking governors to do the same in their Medicaid program, so they're going to be able and authorized to do the same in Medicaid. So that's a big deal. So we're deploying the full power and strength of the federal government to help states, cities, to help local government get this horrible plague over with, and over with fast. There's tremendous energy in our country right now. There's energy like people haven't seen in a long time, a spirit that they have not seen, and we're doing very well, considering what happened to us, and considering if you look at what happened to others. This is something that the world has not seen for a long time. You can probably go back to 1917, where it was a terrible period of time. You all know what happened in 1917. That's over 100 years ago. With that, I'd like to introduce, if I might, Dr. Birx, if you could come up, and then Admiral, you'll come up, and between the two of you, you'll explain the entire process and how much progress we've made and where we're going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the blueprint lays out the roles and responsibilities to enhance our partnership between the private sector and the public sector, bringing together state and local governments with the federal government to ensure that we can accomplish and achieve our core principles and objectives. You can have the first slide. The core elements of the testing plan include both three elements: robust diagnostic testing plans developed in partnerships with state, and I just really want to thank the governors and the health officials.
All right, so it looks like Deborah Birx is laying out new guidelines on testing, but this is kind of more of the same what we've heard from this administration, talking about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it is what we want to see. This is another plan that would satisfy the majority of people who are worried about going back to work during this time. robust diagnostic testing plans, timely monitoring systems, rapid response programs. Good. Develop and implement effective isolation and contact tracing strategies for newly diagnosed COVID-19 cases. I'm not trying to be a hater, okay? Don't take it this way. But again, I'm seeing more of what we can do and not a plan on how we can do it. Again, I'm sure they might be offering some specific details during the talk, so I'm talking over it right now. I really am not interested. This is stuff we could all look up in a little bit, but I've always been a fan of the question answering because, look, I'm looking for the truth. I'm looking for what the question from the reporter, how he asked it, and then I want to hear Trump's response. Because a lot of times if you watch Fox News, you'll get just a clip of where the reporter might have sounded snarky. And if you watch CNN, you get the clip of the president just being snarky and not the reporter. So when I watch these press conferences, this is one of the chances that you get to actually get the truth without an opinion about who's right and who's wrong. Watching these press conferences, if there is information useful from it, is the only time you're going to get the raw news as far as the truth. Now, again, I feel like these presentations are congratulating the workers on the front lines, congratulating doctors and nurses across the United States, which we need to encourage them, let them know that we do support them. At the same time, we also need more clarity on the numbers. I would like to see a graph of the cases of the United States the way Cuomo does it. Cuomo shows you total hospitalizations, how many new hospitalizations, how many new COVID cases, how many new intubations, how many deaths. The graphs are very clear. He breaks them down into 8 categories. If the president did these briefings and stole it from any governor in the United States, it would have to be from Cuomo. The way he presents the first 8 minutes of his briefing is accurate because he's showing us the graphs. We can see the decline. We can see the trends. So there's no way to know if it's fake news or not. Stage 1 here, I'll just read it to you guys. Build the foundation for diagnostic testing. Mobilize private sector for developing the test. Issue emergency use authorizations for test. Galvanize commercial and research laboratories and professional associations to ramp up testing capability. Facilitate state efforts to access and utilize all available testing capacity. Stage 2, scale, identify and expand public and private sector testing infrastructure. Strengthen the testing supply chain. That's in stage 2. Strengthening the testing supply chain should be in stage 1, in my opinion. And then the bottom one is coordinate government response. Governors to support testing plans and rapid response programs. So again, 8-part plan. I think this is what frustrates most people. Number 1 in the launch for stage 1, build the foundation for diagnostic testing. Explain that. What are you going to do to build the foundation? Number 2, mobilize the private sector to develop tests. How do you do that? How do you mobilize the private sector? That's the detail that you need. Number 3, issue emergency use authorization for tests. Okay, that's pretty much a straightforward step. Galvanize commercial and research laboratories and professional associates to ramp up testing capacity. Again, how are you going to do this? How many people are you going to hire for this? How many labs are you going to delegate to this? All of them? Every one of them? How many hours? How are you going to get there? Facilitate state efforts to access and utilize all available testing. Again, I think the how should be a part of a plan. These are talking points for a plan. I know I'm very, very, very judgmental and critical here, but what I did for a living, and I say did because I am no longer working at this time, when you built your business plan, you just didn't tell your boss that you were going to this location and you were going to sell. You told them how you were going to sell. You told them that you were going to have meetings with certain people within the building to talk about future business plans, or talk about future sales, or find out if there's any pressing issues in your department. Part of your business plan, you also put what time of the day that you think you're going to go and call your associates and find out how their day is going. There's details that as a manager that you have to put to these business plans. If I turn in a business plan that looked like that, my boss would have a one-on-one conversation with me and ask me, how much do I like my job? Am I going to put any effort into this, or am I just going to be vague and, plain as day? So, which leads me to this. Did we have a well thought out, organized press conference today? A lot more than usual. I'll give him that. Was the business plan clear and new and fresh and informational? On a 1 to 10, I have to give it about a 6.
The mic is up here also, so we'll answer. Steve, please go ahead.
Showtime.
Grapple with when and how to open their states. What's the best advice from you on what they should do? How quickly?
Well, we want them to do it. We recommend that they do it as quickly as possible, but safely. We want everyone to be safe. And I think you're seeing that. You're seeing a lot of governors get out and they want to open it up. Many are thinking about their school system. Not a long way to go with the school system right now for this season, for this year. But I think you'll see a lot of schools open up, even if it's for a very short period of time. I think it would be a good thing. Because as you see, in terms of what this vicious virus goes after, young people seem to do very well. Young people seem to do very well. So I know that there are some governors that aren't necessarily ready to open up their states, but they may be ready to open up their school systems. We'll see, but that's their choice. But the word is safety. Okay? Rapid, but safety. Yeah, please. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for you regarding one of the members of your coronavirus task force, and that's Secretary of HHS, Alex Azar.
Yeah.
On January the 28th, he was in the briefing room, and in the briefing room, he told reporters that for the individual American, the virus should not be an impact on their day-to-day life. 3 months later, more than 55,000 of our fellow Americans have now lost their lives. Mr. President, why is he still your top health advisor? Why is he still serving as the HHS secretary?
Well, I think it's a very unfair question, because you have many great professionals. Some of them you have great respect for, and you have many people in the other party. You mentioned Alex Azar, but you have many people in the other party that have said the same thing, and with even more confidence. So a lot of people didn't get that right. I was very fortunate, whether it was through luck or whatever, that we closed the border. We put a ban on China other than our citizens coming in. We had our citizens. You can't keep out American citizens. You can't come back into your country. That's a little tough to do, but we put a ban on China. That was very fortunate. But I could tell you that Nancy Pelosi was dancing in the streets in Chinatown. She wanted to go, let's go out and party. Now, that was late into February, so you don't mention that, but you could mention that. Go ahead. Any other? Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. President. He has not been in a briefing.
Yeah, please stand up.
Since April the 3rd. Does that show confidence?
You should have no complaints, please.
Thank you, President. Yesterday, you retweeted someone who alleged that Democrats have quote, inflated the mortality rate of the coronavirus by underreporting the infection rate. Do you believe that's true, that there's some sort of conspiracy theory regarding the number of infections states are reporting?
Well, I can only say what we're doing. We're reporting very accurately. If you look at other countries are not. I mean, you can look at China, you can look at numerous countries where I don't think those are right numbers. I can only say what we're doing. It's very important to us to do very accurate reporting, and that's what we're doing. John, go ahead, please.
Retweeting that, Mr. President.
Thank you, please.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask you about the payment protection plan, the CPP plan to help small businesses.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of concerns today with the website just not working. In fact, we heard from the American Bankers Association saying that they are deeply frustrated, and until it's fixed, American banks will not be able to help struggling small businesses. Do you know?
Well, I just came out and I hadn't heard. I heard there was a glitch. We'll find out whether or not that's so. Certainly, it did work out very well for the original amount of money. This is the second amount, and I'll find out about that. We're relying on the banks to go out and do an accurate job. Yeah, please. in the back.
All the companies that get aid, Mr. President.
Well, I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't know what the legal status of something like that. I would like to do that, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not involved in that process, but I would certainly like to have it listed. I'd have to find out if there's a legal problem, but if there isn't, I would do it gladly. Please.
Mr. President, Charlie Spearing from Breitbart News. And a majority of polls show that Americans blame China for the spread of the coronavirus, and yet they're taking advantage of the crisis to make the world more dependent on their supply chains. How do you hold China accountable, and how do you keep our country?
Well, Charlie, there are a lot of ways you can hold them accountable. We're doing very serious investigations, as you probably know, and we are not happy with China. We are not happy with that whole situation, because we believe it could have been stopped at the source. It could have been stopped quickly, and it wouldn't have spread all over the world. And we think that should have happened. So we'll let you know at the appropriate time, but we are doing serious investigations.
Businesses from relying on China for their supply chains. How do you fix that?
Well, we've already discussed that, and especially having to do with medical supplies and others. If you look prior to this virus, the deficit was coming way down under my administration because I put massive tariffs on China. We took in tens of billions of dollars, gave some of it to the farmers who were unfairly targeted by China. Nobody's ever done that before. We never took in 10 cents from China. Now, all of a sudden, I think you know very well, we've taken in tens of billions of dollars. I helped the farmers by giving them 2 years ago $12 billion, all coming from China. And we had plenty left over, too. And then the following year, $16 billion. And this year, we're also going to help our farmers. But nobody's ever done a thing like that because they were targeted unfairly by China. So we're doing a very strong investigation, and we'll let you know what the result of that is.
Quickly, I know a farmer in Nebraska who says they need trade, not aid. Donald Trump has set aside $19 billion for farmers due to this coronavirus pandemic and the heartache it's causing in the farmers. But the real thing, and this is why Trump harps on this, they need China to do what they agree to do. And to me, this sounds like they have not bought the agriculture they said they were going to buy.
We should be able to get the answers to.
President,
Go ahead, please.
as you talk about potentially reopening up America again, as we see in the slides behind you, what data are you going to look at in the future to see if restrictions need to be reimposed?
Yeah, we're looking very much and reliant very much on the local areas, the governors. And that's been the way it has been for me, maybe not for everybody, but for me, that's the way it's been at the beginning. And from the beginning, the governors, some of them are doing an extraordinary job, not all of them, but some of them. And I think all of them maybe have a chance to do that. Some will be a little bit different. The areas are much different. Manhattan is much different than Montana. You have a lot of different circumstances. And obviously, if you look at the virus, it hit some areas, hasn't hit very much other areas, not even at all, almost not at all. But the entire country has been infected. West Virginia is an example. I spoke to Jim Justice, the governor of West Virginia, and they were long before anything hit. And they had numerous deaths, even in West Virginia, and they were really the last one to be hit. So we're dealing with the governors. We had a really great call today, as I told you. Very, very solid. These were not complaining people. These were people they had everything they needed. They had their ventilators. They have their testing. They see their testing is growing. They're growing their testing. We're helping them. We're getting them what they need. And that was a group I'm sure some of you are on the line, even though you weren't supposed to be. And I think you know what the result of that call was. Please go ahead.
Supply chain, sir?
Following up on Charlie's question on making China, holding them responsible, Germany sent a bill to China for $130 billion, 130 billion euros for the damages caused by the
So far, some pretty easy questions.
Doing the same.
Well, we can do something much easier than that. We have ways of doing things a lot easier than that. But Germany's looking at things, and we're looking at things, and we're talking about a lot more money than Germany's talking about. Yeah.
Breet Bart
go
is
ahead.
there.
We haven't determined the final amount yet. It's very substantial. If you look at the world, this is worldwide damage. This is damage to the U.S., but this is damage to the world. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Attorney General William Barr directed federal prosecutors to watch out for state and local officials that might be violating the Constitution by some of their stay-at-home orders. What's the strategy there? Will the federal government sue local authorities?
Well, you'd have to ask Attorney General Barr, but I think he wants to see, like everybody, he wants to see people get back and wants to see people get back to work. he doesn't want people to be held up when there's no reason for doing it.
Wow.
In some cases, perhaps it's too strict. He wants to make sure people have their rights and they maintain their rights, very importantly. So a lot of people would agree with him, but you'd actually have to ask that question specifically from a legal standpoint to Attorney General Barr.
Government suing state
It would depend on the state. It would depend on the circumstances of the state. I mean, some states are, perhaps a little early, and some states are a little bit late. And the Attorney General, I read that and I saw that. And frankly, the Attorney General doesn't want to have rights taken away because, there are some people, they're not allowed to open up a store or they're going to lose their livelihood. And by the way, that causes death also between all of the things that happen. And this has been a big study. The fact that people aren't allowed to have their freedom causes a tremendous amount of problems, including death. So that's what he's talking about. Please, in the back.
Maryland and other states, Governor Larry Hogan specifically said they've seen a spike in people using disinfectant after your comments last week.
Here we go.
They were sarcastic,
I can't imagine why. I can't imagine why. Yeah.
Take any responsibility?
No, I don't. No, I can't imagine. I can't imagine that. Yeah, go ahead, please.
President, Dr. Anthony Fauci says that we need to increase testing by double it at least, and so does the Rockefeller Foundation. When are we going to be doubling testing?
It doesn't really matter what they say there, and I just left him. We just had a meeting, but because we're going to have much more than double it very soon. Now, there are big believers in testing, and then there are some governors that don't feel as strongly about it at all. You understand that. They feel much differently about it. But we're going with maximum testing because it's something we're very capable of doing. But we'll be much more than doubled. Mike, I'd like you to answer that. We're going to be much higher than doubled on testing very shortly. Mike, please.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope the American people looking on today are as proud as the President and I are of the incredible public and private partnership you heard from today.
All right.
It was 2 months ago that we had done.
We'll go back to this when Trump takes more questions. This guy bores me. Sorry, guys. So far, so good. The president answering questions. Some he's not really answering, but you know what? His behavior thus far has been much more acceptable, much more presidential, much more leader-like to watch. So far, no personal attacks on reporters or networks. He did dodge the last question by giving the answer that he didn't feel responsible for people using disinfectants, the sarcastic remark. That reporter was trying to dig a little deeper at that comment, and Trump swiftly overpowered him and moved to the next one. But that's the way, if he's going to do it, I'd rather him do it the way he just did it, by transitioning into the next question.
We're north of 5 million tests.
I understand there's reporters that say very unfair things about this president, and I agree with that. There's a lot of petty things that get said about Trump. But at the same time, he is the leader, and we need him to be the bigger one. So today, I'd say with the questions that he's getting, which some of them are softball questions for conservative networks, a couple of them are a little tough, not real tough. Some of the people that ask the tougher ones are being really nice to him today. So this could be a sign that the press have pulled their fangs in just for, today. Let's see what happens moving forward with this. But these press conferences will be better served for the American public if they are conducted in this manner. We saw Deborah Birx, we saw the Admiral, we saw the CEOs of major corporations that have played a key part in reopening in America. They're bringing more old people to the podium now to speak, so I'll continue on this. And actually, this next article that I've got lined up for us to do is related to this topic, coronavirus, and that is about stimulus money. And this is very interesting, guys. There's another phase of stimulus money coming, and this is going to be the big one. This is going to be what stimulates the economy, okay? On top of Now listen to this. On top of if you are receiving unemployment on any level, on top of that, before the COVID, if you were working, had a job, and you were working, you made a certain amount of money between $0 to $130,000, you will get $2,000 a month plus $500 per child for 6 months. So a family of 4 will receive $5,000 for 6 months on top of your unemployment benefits. This money is not just for people who are stuck at home. This money is for every American. And why are they plugging so much money a month? This is the only way to stimulate the economy and to get that V bounce back. Yeah, just blow a huge hole in the budget. It is beyond huge. They're drilling pins on questions about 1 million tests that weren't delivered. So I don't know how they're going to get this bill passed. Honestly, guys, that seems like a lot. $5,500 is the maximum. If you have 3 children, you get $500 per kids plus $2,000 per person. And if you're a married couple and you make $260,000 or less, you're qualified. So, yes, this is going to put more money in Americans' pockets. They're going to spend it on Amazon. They're going to spend it on cable subscriptions. They might upgrade a phone. You can still buy a car from home. So that part of the bill is very, very, very controversial right now. But when you talk about that the economy coming back and doing that V spike, you have to inject not money just to small businesses and corporations, but you have to inject money into the pockets of Americans out there. And this is a real scenario that is being worked out on the next bill. Also, in this next phase of coronavirus response, this bill, by the way, is going to be called Emergency Money for the People Act. Also, and this representative that has actually taken appropriations on this or has written this bill is Tim Ryan, the Democrat out of Ohio. It's got lots of support right now. They may tweak that dollar amount down, but 6 months of this payment, $5,500 a month for 6 months, folks. That's $33,000 in 6 months to American families. I don't know. We're going to pay for this somewhere down the line. You could sit here and think about that and think about what you could spend that money on and whatnot, but trust me, there's going to be a problem in the future on how this is going to be paid back or how it's going to work. I just don't understand how the government can afford to pay every working family, married couple, $33,000 over 6 months. I'm all for it. And this is every American age 16 and older who makes less than $130,000 would receive $2,000 each. Married couples would receive $4,000 plus $500 per child, which could receive up to $1,500. They will not be counted as income for any families that are eligible for income-based state or federal government assistance programs like Medicaid or SNAP. So on top of having unemployment, you can get your Medicaid, your SNAP, and this benefit. I know we were doing great as a country before all this went down, but were we doing that good? Can we afford all of that? I mean, good Lord. I mean, let's pump the brakes. As a family man myself, I'll take the extra money, but at the same time, Mari and I think we could get by with half of that a month on top of what we get if we get, let's say, for instance, if Mari and I were producing unemployment or income, on top of that, I think half of $5,500 would be more than enough on top of what you already get for regular income. All right, let's go ahead and listen in some more.
If that were the case, is there any reason why you would not bring him back into the administration?
I will only say this.
Conservative reporter, by the way.
Is a wonderful
reporter, by the way.
Is a wonderful man. He had a wonderful career, and it was a disgrace what happened to General Flynn. Let's see what happens now. But what happened to General Flynn should never happen again in our country. What happened to other people should never happen again in our country. What happened to your President of the United States should never again be allowed to happen. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Today, one of your top economic advisors he said that the U.S. is likely to experience a 20 to 30% decline in the GDP in the second quarter, the worst since the Great Depression. Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't know, but I can tell you the third and the fourth quarter in particular are going to be, I think, spectacular. We were talking about it with the executives. I think we're going to have a phenomenal third quarter. Nobody, except one country can be held accountable for what happened. Nobody's blaming anybody.
Third quarter starts in July.
Looking at a group of people that should have stopped it at the source. But so what happens in second happens in second. What we are doing is, I think you're going to see a big rise in the third, but you're going to see an incredible fourth quarter, and you're going to have an incredible next year. I think you're going to have a recovery. Look, they were just telling me inside, and it's fact, I built the greatest economy with the help of 325 million people. I built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And one day, because of something that should have never been allowed to happen, we had to close our country, we had to close our economy. I built it. We had the best employment numbers and the best unemployment numbers for Hispanic American, for African American, for Asian American, for everybody, best stock market numbers. And by the way, the stock market was up very substantially today, and people are seeing a lot of good things. A lot of very smart people investing in the stock market right now. It's at 24,000, approximately 24,000. And if you would have said, with the tragedy that this country had to endure and go through, with all of the death and the people that died and were so badly hurt by what happened, and you can only say God bless them, but if you would have said that our country would be in the position we're now, we're ready to move forward. We'll never forget loved ones. We'll never forget these great people that sacrificed for a reason of incompetence or something else other than incompetence, what happened at a point where they could have protected the whole world. Not just us, the whole world. But we had the greatest economy ever in the history of our world. And I had to turn it off in order to get to a point where we are today. And now we're making a comeback. And I think we're going to have economically, from an economic standpoint, next year, an unbelievable year. And I think that you're going to see a fantastic fourth quarter, and the third quarter will start to build. But the second quarter, obviously, you're going to have GDP lack of growth. I'm looking at the head of Walmart. What a job Walmart's done in going through something. I mean, they were doing yeoman's work, including getting us millions of really very, very protective outfits. And I mean, the job that Doug and Walmart did was incredible. Millions of outfits. And those are high quality. I've seen them. Those are high quality. That's what we need. So people have stepped up to the plate. I think we're going to have a really good, I think it's going to start building. I think it's going to build fast. I think it'll be a tremendous, tremendous comeback. And, so I say, I built the greatest economy with all of the people that helped me and all of the people in this country. We built the greatest economy the world has ever seen. And we're going to do it again. And it's not going to be that long. Okay. Yes, please, go ahead.
Mr. President, opening up the country, how long will you keep up the travel restrictions for Europe?
Well, we're looking at that, and it depends on how long it's taking Europe to heal. Italy is starting to make a comeback. I'm very happy to see that with my friend, the Prime Minister. It's tragic what went on in Italy and Spain and France and Germany, frankly, and every country over there. It's tragic. But we'll be looking at what's happening in Europe, and certainly we want to do that, and they want to do it too. They want to do it very badly. Yeah?
Do you have any update on Kim Jong-un's health? Have you gotten any update on Kim Jong-un's health? Has he responded to your letter from March?
On Kim Jong-un? I can't tell you exactly. Yes, I do have a very good idea, but I can't talk about it now. I just wish him well. I've had a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. If I weren't president, you'd be in war. You would have been in war with Korea. You would have been in war with North Korea if I wasn't president. That I can tell you. He expected that. That I can tell you. I hope he's fine. I do know how he's doing, relatively speaking. We will see. You'll probably be hearing in the not too distant future. All right, one or two more. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have a question about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
Your likely Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, recently suggested that you were considering changing the date of the election, that you might try something like that. That's my first question. The second
I
question
never even thought of changing the date of the election. Why would I do that? November 3rd. It's a good number. No, I look forward to that election. And it was just made up propaganda, not by him, but by some of the many people that are working, writing little statements. I see all the time, statement made, you say something.
All right, so I got to be honest with you. The questions tonight, the media is playing nice. The media is playing nice tonight with Trump. They've asked a couple of uncomfortable questions.
interfered in the 2016 elections and there was not political bias. Do you accept its conclusions?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen the report. Yeah, please, go ahead.
President, nice to see you. I think you have a good relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. But last Saturday, Senator Graham...
I've never seen this person before.
The Fox News interview, he said...
He didn't say anything last Saturday. Nobody knows where he is, so he obviously couldn't have said it. If you have this is breaking news. That Kim Jong-un made a statement on Saturday? I don't think so. Okay, go ahead. Let's do one more, please.
Wow.
An American president loses more Americans over the course of 6 weeks than died in the entirety of the Vietnam War. Does he deserve to be reelected?
So, yeah, we've lost a lot
Mari
of people.
just said he definitely knows something about Kim.
What original projections were 2.2 million. We're probably heading to 60,000, 70,000. It's far too many. One person is too many for this. And I think we've made a lot of really good decisions. The big decision was closing the border or doing the ban. People coming in from China, obviously other than American citizens, which had to come in. Can't say you can't come in, you can't come back to your country. I think we've made a lot of good decisions. I think that Mike Pence and the task force have done a fantastic job. I think that everybody working on the ventilators, you see what we've done there, have done.
All right. So it appears that Trump could be winding this down.
The reason they don't want to talk, that was a subject.
He is definitely a lot better today than we've seen in past. He was spiraling out of control last week for sure. He's kind of pulled it together a little bit. Not saying that he is 100% correct here, but definitely a little bit well behaved compared to what we've seen in the past.
One person is too many. Thank you all very much.
Man, I predicted that right on the nose. So 634,000, or I'm sorry, 634. So this lasted a little bit, almost right at an hour. So I am kind of I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the presentation like that. I'm okay with a short but sweet conference. Dr. Birx didn't really take any questions. The Admiral didn't really take any questions. It was all President Trump taking questions. But Mari has been talking about this for a long time too. It would be in their best interest to cut these daily conferences to maybe bi-weekly, maybe 3 times a week. Or let Pence and the doctors and the experts speak at these conferences and let Trump announce the economic things. They were doing this where he would be in the room and then would leave and let the rest of the task force. I thought that would be a great compromise as well. Look, he doesn't have to be out there every night. He doesn't have to be up there answering some of these dumb questions out there. Again, he was asked a couple weird questions. He responded typical Donald, but it was a little bit more filtered. So I think this is a subliminal sign to the press and everyone. Look, mistakes have been made. Let's move on. I'll do my part and behave presidential and as your leader. Let's just keep the questions relevant and keep it on topic. Again, you didn't see CNN reporters, MSNBC reporters. I think there was one in there, and that was it. The rest of them were a lot of companies that were conservative biased. So anyway, interesting stuff from the president today. Not really basic, boring, schmoring things about that we have heard before. Still talk about the action, just not showing us how we're going to go into action. But yeah, James Bond moment with Mr. Kim. I agree with that, Randy. But in the meantime, no hard questions. And let me say this: if the left-wing media tonight decides to attack Trump for anything, they need to take a break and go find a hobby, because you can't really criticize the president tonight for his behavior or the way he answered any of the questions. Maybe a couple of the questions were not answered favorably, but nonetheless, this was not this outlandish, off the cusp Donald Trump. This was a little bit more responsible leader type reporting today. Trump should pick questions based on the ratings of the reporters' media ratings. Listen, I don't want this press conference to have ratings. The fact that we have to speak about people dying every single day. And what makes me anxious about the president when he starts talking about opening up and opening up fast is that even though cases are going down, the cases are not going down because we found medicine that makes you feel better and cures the COVID. The cases are slowing down because people are locked in their home, not locked, but they're in their homes. They're not going to work. They're not going to restaurants. They're not going to beaches. They're not going to concerts. They're not going to sporting events. So the infection rate has slowed down. And Dr. Fauci has said this many times. This is not the time to take your foot off the pedal. Yes, the weather's getting warmer. Yes, the cases are slowing down. Yes, the rates of death are going down. That is only because we are doing what the CDC and doctors have recommended, and that's what's flattening the curve. What's scary to me is that we're going to reopen while we still have a lot of states that have active cases going on. People start traveling from county to county and reinfect your county, and now we are right back where we were. Why are we opening before we have a medication or a therapeutic that can treat this virus? That's my biggest question. Yes, this economy is collapsing. Yes, people are losing their livelihoods. Would this bill that they're thinking about giving every American $2,000 plus $5,000 per kid help things? Absolutely. There's no reason to do rent moratorium if you've got $5,000 extra a month coming in on top of your unemployment or on top of your job pay. So in this bill, they're fighting for rent moratorium as well. But do you really need it? If the government's going to give you $5,000, do you really need rent moratorium? And the answer is no. Because that's the only true way you're going to keep the economy still moving in the right direction. If you're getting $4,000 a month and your rent is $1,500, by paying that rent, you're still left with $2,500 to pay for your food, to pay for your bills, on top of if you're getting income that you're working on. This is for working people and non-working people, not just for people affected by COVID. This is for everyone. This is how they are going to spike the economy. It's not going to affect if you're trying to get food stamps. This is their way of trying to pay for the trauma that COVID-19 has caused for people. Think about how many people are depressed right now. Think about how many people are sitting at home wondering how they're going to get paychecks again. How are they going to catch up their bills? Your landlord's not going to evict you this month or next month, but what's he going to say to you in June? Hey, you owe me 3 months rent? Hey, you owe me 4 months of mortgage? We're going to foreclose on your house? So lots of tension, lots of stress, and money is not the cure to happiness, but it sure would help in this situation when it comes to paying your bills, paying your rent. And that way we're not, at least if we're using the money to pay off debt and inject into the economy by buying something on Amazon or treating yourself to a new outfit or buying a new TV for your bedroom because you've got extra stimulus money, and that's really what this money is designed for. Spend it on things that you owe, bills, or just to help the economy along. You know, you're stuck in your house, make the best of it. Because I know a lot of you people would disagree with this next statement, but until they get therapeutics, there should be nobody pushing to open up more until they have a therapeutic that keeps people out of the hospital. Edward says, I haven't seen mine yet. Sorry to hear that. I know we've seen ours. Other family members and friends have also received them. So be patient, my friend. Hopefully they'll get to you very, very soon. I know everyone needs the money. And this is a very stressful time. And politics, unfortunately, guys, I know a lot of people hate politics, but this is the time to pay attention to both sides because of things like this. Now, if you're a Republican, you're rolling your eyes at this bill because the person that wrote this is a Democrat, and he wants to spend $5,500 a month to each family of three. Family of four will make $5,000 a month on top of unemployment if you're not working. What's that do for the businesses that lose their livelihoods? Will they lose their businesses? I guess they could start a new business with $5,000 a month. I don't know. Lots of things to pay attention to. Lots of confusion out there. Lots of uncertainty. The water is definitely murky. I know President Trump paints a very rosy picture about the economy coming back in the quarter number 3. Guys, that's in July, August, September. All right? I feel like that is going to be the beginning of a possible ramp up. Apple might help a little bit too with their iPhone 12. That's being delayed a month, but they're going to release it in October, late October versus September. So lots of uncertainties. We can only hope that we have that V-shaped bounce back in the economy. But right now, if you are an American who's been affected by COVID-19, you're not working, you don't have any money to spend extra on an outfit or go to the movies or go out to eat or go to the bowling alley or even go to the salon. All your money has been spent on food and supplies. So it's, to me, I think behind the scenes, when you're seeing bills like this being presented, it tells me that our government is going to have to pay a heavy price if they want that V-shaped economy. Because if they don't offer some kind of help like this, the economy is going to take a long time to bounce back. It's going to show growth, but it won't bounce back in that V formation like the president thinks. It's going to take a lot of cash to be injected into the economy to get it back to where it was before this all happened. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up on that note. Thank you for joining us today on the press conference and a little commentary on some of these political articles that I found today and some things that I thought were definitely important to talk about and follow. So please join me every Monday here on WTFSKY. It's a weekly show right now it is anyway, unless breaking news on anything major WTFSKY will come across. But right now, this is a weekly show on Monday evenings between 5 and 6. We'll make sure we get that announced on a weekly basis. So if you like what you heard, please like and subscribe and share. And let's bring more people into the mix, more people in the chat, and let's get more people talking and showing them the truth. Until next time, everyone, we'll talk soon. Take care.